The Marlins have played it perfectly. Max Meyer remains in AAA, even though the Marlins have had zero rotation for months. However, from today onwards, the Marlins have now gained an extra year of service control, club control. I don't know how you phrase that, but nevertheless, they've gained an extra year of control for Max Meyer now through 2029. The Marlins have played it perfectly. How soon do we see Max Meyer? My projection, this week. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. This is your team every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, of course. There is a YouTube channel. Hit subscribe over on the YouTube. It is called Locked On Marlins. Easy to find, easy to subscribe, easy to comment. Let me know your thoughts, particularly on this service time manipulation aspect. The Marlins have done what they needed to do. But nevertheless, is it right? Will it ever change? I don't know. We're going to talk about all that today. I'm delighted to welcome back on a Monday, for the first time in a month, the UK GOAT, Sean Barrett, is in the house. Shawnee B, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Pete. Good to be back. It has been an awful long time, but I think the second half of baseball's just come around the corner now, and it's kind of reinvigorated me. I've put a couple of games on. I've put a couple of minor league games on. I don't think we were making any sort of mystery to the fact that I'd taken a step back a little bit away from watching the games, but no, I'm back. Second half's here. I want to watch some baseball before it disappears. And I'm not looking forward to seeing many wins, but I'm back for now.
What's getting the juices flowing for you with the 2024 Marlins at this point?
Again, it's not much, is it? We've got to see what happens with the trade deadline. We've got to see what moves happen. And then, there were some young guys that are having half-decent years. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that as we go through the episode. But, I think that's all you can hope for now is looking at the future, because that's where the Marlins are now. It is a case of we are looking 3-4 years down the future and trying to piece together yet another rebuild.
Yeah, this is a full-blown rebuild. Before we really dig into it, mate, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Speaking about the future, Sean, I think it's fair to say the Marlins have helped their future this year, clearly in the bin. Max Meyer, after a career outing months and months and months ago, was demoted to AAA. We haven't seen him since. The Marlins thinking about the future. They've kept him down there all year, even though they were desperate, absolutely desperate for anything. Innings, quality innings. They haven't had a win from a starter since May, I don't think. It's been so long. But the Marlins have got what they wanted, an extra year of club control through 2029 for Max Meyer. And frankly, Sean, that could be when the window will actually reopen. For the Marlins. So generally, what's been your take on the Marlins management, let's say, of Max Meyer in the 2024 season?
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, we know where the Marlins were heading as far as their expectations from this year. So at that point, it is a case of if you can make your way through eating innings without bringing up Max, then that's what they were going to do. And they had to cycle through a few guys, didn't they? They had to bring in a couple of guys just off the street and throw them out and then send them back down to make it work. But when you're not worried about the results necessarily, in fact, you're actively trying to lose to a certain degree, keeping Max down there, having that extra year of control, of cheap control, obviously, or cheaper than a free agency year anyway. I think you mentioned just now that Max will be up this week, and I fully agree. So he pitched 2 days ago now, I think it is. He'll be up in his regular rotation. And one thing that they did speak about on the broadcast when I was watching the last game that he pitched, about how he had been pitching every 5 days religiously for his last couple of starts, rather than just on his cycle. And I think that was clearly the organization thinking, right, we need to get him ready to come up. And I think that's where they are now.
Absolutely. I think we see him in Baltimore. I think likely, because they're on a road trip now, I think we see him in that Baltimore series. So looking forward to that. The Marlins get that extra year of control through 2029, as I mentioned. Gut feel, considering we know the Marlins and the way the Rays are run. Does Max Meyer pitch for the Marlins in 2029?
You hope so. Obviously, if at any point towards a deadline that he's throwing well, but he's still a young guy. He's still got that sort of pedigree to a certain degree. I think when he came up before the injury, we were really super excited. We knew the warts that he had with his limited skill set as far as throwing multiple pitches, and the fact that the fastball, despite a good velocity, doesn't miss many bats. But hopefully that's what he's been working on in the minor leagues. I did watch, he was throwing an awful lot of sliders, but he'd gone through quite a lot of pitches to begin the game because the rain, there was some really bad rain that they should not have been playing through, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is a case of, we know the slider works.
We know that.
It's whether or not he can miss bats with the fastball and whether or not the changeup is progressing. He did throw one very nice changeup for a strikeout in that game. So that gives me a little bit of enthusiasm that he can be a number 2 and number 3 pitcher for the Marlins through the rebuild. And of course, again, it's a rebuild, so winning doesn't matter too much, but you want to see a ramp up. So hopefully, as years go by, Meyer can ramp up. So yeah, theoretically, he could be one of the better arms in this rotation in 2029. But that seems also long ago, mainly because it is.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, right? But considering the profile of guys that the Marlins have been taking in these trades and the recent draft, obviously, like they're going young. Like there's a lot of young dudes, and so come into fruition. If indeed the planet, clearly things can change, and those guys can be traded to upgrade for guys nearer, et cetera, et cetera. So who knows? Just because they're in the system doesn't mean they'll play for the Marlins, and they could be trade chips elsewhere. But everything right now is pointing to a long rebuild at this point, multiple years away from the Marlins are kind of back in the mix. Just to kind of finish up on Max Meyer, from a 2024 perspective, obviously 23 lost with Tommy John. He's currently at, what are we at here? 75 innings thus far for Max Meyer. So let's assume he's up this week, which I believe he will be. Now the Marlins have got what they wanted out of this. How do they manage Max Meyer the rest of the way? Is it going to be 2 months of Max Meyer at the big league level and it's all good? 5-man rotation, Max every 5th day. What's that going to be? 8 to 10 starts, I guess. Another, let's say 50, 60 innings. Somewhere in that range. Like, are they going to let him go that far? You'd say?
I think they probably won't go that far. I would hope that the way they do it is just nice and simple. Throw him out every 5 days, limit him to 5 innings or whatever, and then they'll have a number. They'll have a number of innings that they want him to get to, and once he hits that number, just sit him down. This isn't a competitive ball club. There's no point messing around with the arm. There's no point saying, "Oh, we're going to pitch every 6 days," or we're only going to let him throw 3 innings and try and stretch him through the whole year. Just he's a starting pitcher, so just let him throw a starting pitcher's worth of innings every 5 days, and if he hits his number in late August, early September, sit him down, cycle through those guys, you can get off the street again, because there's no point messing with the arm to win a game, because winning games right now is not some people would argue is often not the case that the Marlins want to do, but this year especially.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm intrigued to see the way how far they let him go. The rest of the way, I think he will be up. There's no reason for him not to be. And the Marlins probably going to need some pitching help in the next week or two. Clearly, they don't have a ton of starters that maybe will glean much interest. Let's say I do think there will be calls on Trevor Rogers. By the way, have to be honest, watching Trevor Rogers yesterday, I don't know if you saw that game live or not, but my takeaway on Trevor is man, he doesn't miss any bats anymore. Like there's just such a lack of swing and miss that we see from Trevor Rogers. Granted, he gets a decent amount of ground balls, and the defense, hasn't been optimal behind him. But man, oh man, it's so different from 2021 when he burst on the scene. I guess it felt like he was missing tons of bats, and his game is completely different now from 20. Like it's so far removed from 2021 Trevor Rogers. So, yes, he's been a relatively dependable lefty innings eater type dude. I'm sure there will be a call or two on him, considering like there's a couple of years of control. But yeah, I think the Marlins are going to need Max Meyer because I think the bullpen in particular is going to be decimated. Come post deadline, like I can see 3-4 guys going out of the pen, maybe a starter, maybe Trevor. It wouldn't shock me if there were calls on Rodrigo Munoz, to be honest with you, like a guy that is cheap and maybe can contribute in some sort of way. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, Max Meyer, and again, we've still got the same problem. Just one final one here before we hit the ads. Eddie Cabrera, mate. I mean, man, oh man, Skip. It's the broken record from Skip post game. Every Eddie Cabrera, the Eddie Cabrera experience is like, it's the time warp. You're just trapped in it. Do you see the Marlins maybe flexing away and just trying Eddie in the pen and just trying something a bit different with him? Could you see that eventuality with him? Or they need him so badly that it just has to be the rotational bus for him?
Yeah, I think it's a case of innings. You need an innings, multiple innings from him. I'd say a guy that can't throw strikes consistently is not really the kind of guy you want to see in the bullpen either.
Yeah.
Leadoff walks for a reliever just absolutely murder you.
Killer in it.
So yeah, I think look, he's got the stuff. He's got the pitch makeup to be a starting pitcher. He's got the length to do it as well. It is just a case of he needs to find the strike zone more. And we've seen Mel do miracles with some guys. And Eddie just doesn't seem to have clicked. He doesn't seem to have got with the program. And whether that's confidence, whether that's just an inability to take what he's been instructed to do. But Mel's always been real simple, isn't it? It's not do this with your mechanics or do that with your mechanics. It's just been throw strikes and your stuff will make you survive. There's no magic bean here. It's just a case of throw strikes. Your stuff's good enough. There you go. And Eddie, I don't know if it's confidence, what it is, but he just doesn't trust his stuff enough to consistently throw strikes, which is a shame because he could be a really good starter.
Could you see him moved at this deadline?
I don't see the value. I don't see a competing team, especially.
No.
If in the off season, probably easier to do that. You've got people that are looking for arms, looking for reclamation projects. But right now, the teams that are trading are teams that are trying to win, and Cabrera doesn't quite match that profile.
No way. I trust Rodrigo Munoz significantly more than Eddie Cabrera at this point. If I was a contender and I had to it was game 5 and pick one of the two, I'm going Rodrigo Munoz over Eddie Cabrera at this point, no doubt, on a short leash, but that's where I'd go, which is kind of crazy to say. Let's hit the first ads, and then let's talk about the lineup today in particular. What is get your take on that? It is a very interesting pre-deadline lineup where you've got Otto Lopez in left field, you've got Vidal Brujan at center field, Brian De La Cruz playing right field, you've got Yonny Torinos as the starting pitcher. I mean, this is pre-deadline for the postseason making 5-seed Marlins. It's absolutely crazy how this lineup looks, how this team looks at this point. It's been an elite tank job from Peter Bendix, no doubt about it. So I'm going to dig into that. Plus, I want to talk about some of the guys that have been acquired already that had they had career days yesterday in the worst possible way. 0 for 9 combined and 8 Ks for those guys. So we'll get into that. Before we do that, firstly, let's let you know about our good friends over at PrizePicks. Yes, sir. And PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. And you can win up to 100 times your money very simply on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into 1,000. Yes, sir. And if you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays, so tomorrow, to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So all you have to do is download PrizePicks today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Yes, the code is LOCKEDONMLB, and the app is PrizePicks, and a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And this episode is also brought to you by our real good friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, guys, welcome back to Locked On Marlins on wrong thing. There we go. On Monday, the 22nd of July. Producer was going crazy then. Got it all wrong. UK GOAT Sean Barrett is in the house. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen, guys. We've talked Max Meyer. Service time manipulation challenge has been completed. Wait to see when we see Max up. Already 75 innings thrown thus far. We don't know how many he will go. Maybe, let's say, 110 max. Maybe 100. I don't know. Like, there may not be much juice left in it for Max Meyer this year before the Marlins shut him down. But nevertheless, it's going to be good to see him back up. Sean, I want to talk about the lineup particularly for today. Let's briefly touch on that. Otto Lopez, particularly at left field, caught my eye. I'm assuming they must be facing a lefty here because you've got no Nick Gordon, you've got no Jesus Sanchez. So Otto Lopez out in left field. You've got Vidal Brujan in center field. You've got De La Cruz in at right field. You've got the backup catcher going. You've got, of course, Manny Rivera at third base. I mean, boy, oh boy, I don't think anyone could have projected this for the Marlins pre-deadline. I mean, okay, after the deadline, perhaps the Marlins could be sellers, but boy, oh boy, this is lacking talent, I think. I mean, they've obviously been in a heavy platoon situation all year. They haven't wavered from that in the main. Jesus Sanchez definitely has picked up a few at-bats against lefties. But, Sean, how underwhelming is this from the come down from last year?
This is a Don Mattingly Sunday lineup, isn't it?
Oh, baby, this is vintage. Sean, you've nailed that. It is Don Mattingly.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny, isn't it? Obviously, Jazz has moved into second now. This is a purely let's show teams what he can do at second base because that's where they're going to want him to play when he's traded, if he's traded. Yeah, Jesus Sanchez, as we know, isn't great against lefties. So they're going to put in Otto Lopez there. Not only his first game at left field this year, but his first game in the outfield this year. So that'll be interesting. So I had a quick look and thought, well, maybe he's absolutely smoking lefties. No, not really. Better numbers than Jesus Sanchez, but that's not really saying much. De La Cruz in right field is scary to me. He's scary on the field wherever he is. But at least
he took him in the face yesterday, obviously off the wall, didn't he? So I'm kind of surprised he's in there today. Like in some ways, he's like, his lip was busted up, and like, I mean, that just sums up like yesterday. It's a great point, Sean, because De La Cruz in the outfield. There's two factors yesterday. You get the fan interference situation where he's sliding like he should be, but they then deem it was an uncatchable ball, and they deem that because it's De La Cruz sliding for it. And then later in the game, last inning, effectively, he takes one off the wall, straight square, right in the mush. And to be fair, he kind of soldiered through that, but he exited the field pretty quick. But that just sums up De La Cruz in the outfield, I think, a little bit. I know he's working on his game out there, but it isn't natural to him. And yeah, in right field, it's It's an adventure, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm actually looking forward to watching him there in kind of a morbid kind of way.
Yeah.
Obviously, hopefully he's safe out there and doesn't get himself hurt.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no doubt.
but yeah, I'll be interested to see how that works out. This is a team that are trying to get the first, or it's not even the first pick anymore, is it? It is a case of you want the most ping pong balls, or however it is they do
Yeah.
it to decide. The White Sox are kind of running away with it at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this lineup is an attempt to reinvigorate the chance of that, but
Yeah.
this is what we're going to have to get used to. Obviously, if there are trades, if Jazz and Bell are gone by the deadline, then hopefully the people that come up are a little bit more exciting. I think Victor Mesa is looking quite interesting down there. There's a few other young bats that are there now, aren't they? They're on the 40 man, and it's time for us to see them. I mean, Griffin Conine. I mean, Christ, I'm not expecting anything decent from him, but if he can yak a home run every now and then that goes 400 plus feet, then it's a little bit of excitement, isn't it? When you're watching a team that are probably going to lose, if not 100, 95 plus.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it's just that the name is going to generate the interest. So, like, it's the perfect time to get, Conine in the mix. I think when we look at like the current situation, I think because you've got, with Dane Myers obviously breaking his foot, this has created this situation where they had the 5-man outfield effectively with Jazz in the mix, and they'd cycle him around for the platoon situations. Now Dane's missing. They've kind of lost that because you've got 2 lefties in as well as Jazz, so 3 lefties in the outfield mix. So as soon as they end up facing a lefty, it's like, well, Otto Lopez is out there. What did you make though? So Otto Lopez, he ended up starting yesterday at shortstop, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, he's been amazing at second base. But he then gets the start at short. I think only his second ever career start there. Then the next day he's out in left field. I mean, okay, great. It's kind of like the new Birdie maybe, but which is, there's value there for sure. But, I find it pretty intriguing that there's this amount of mixing and matching around defensively at this point. And the sense I had was like Xavier Edwards, just leave him at shortstop now and just see what you've got. So I don't know if maybe you need a little bit of a rest or a little day, like in a mental break, maybe not playing short. But yeah, Otto Lopez, he's becoming the full-blown utility guy, it seems, right? And his bat definitely has dropped off from the super hot start that he had. Like the bat, has maybe fallen back to earth. But defensively, there is a player there. There's a lot of value there defensively we've seen, which is encouraging. And there is a stick in there maybe, and it's an aggressive swing. So I think when he does make contact, there is something there. So, yeah, Otto Lopez, he may be one of the main feel-good stories of this campaign when we look back. Like, a waiver-claim dude that ends up, like, being a positive WAR guy. A lot of value at second base defensively. But, yeah, it's interesting that he's moving around. And then Jazz sliding into second. What do you make for Jazz sliding back into second base? Like, is this purely trade, a trade showpiece? Is that what's going on?
I think so. If we're looking at the case that they're putting Otto Lopez in the outfield, that over Jazz, as it were, essentially, this isn't a competitive advantage for the Marlins. It is purely, I don't know, look, Jazz will do a job at second base. I'm not, that's not the slight I'm making, but they wouldn't be doing this if it weren't to advertise his abilities. On Otto Lopez, you're absolutely right. I mean, he's second in WAR for the team behind Jazz. The bat has dropped off now. It's a 76 WRC plus, but that value comes from the defense. And look, the Marlins currently don't have a decent bat at shortstop. He could earn himself a role there for sure.
Yeah.
Going forwards, like a guy that can hit 80 to 90 WRC plus with high level of defense. That's basically Mickey Rowe.
It's Mickey Rowe, baby. Let's go.
And that's the bat that carried them through a rebuild. He was the face of the franchise. I'm not saying that's what he can become, but it's a Major League Baseball profile of a player. And quite frankly, the Marlins are in need of quite a few more of those. So
Yeah, no
That's
doubt.
certainly a role that he can deliver.
What shouldn't go unsaid, and I feel like it probably has been a little bit unsaid on this this podcast recently, is Xavier Edwards' bat is. I mean, it's Luis Arraez. It already that would look to be the profile in some ways, and we're seeing a similar hit tool here from Xavier Edwards, and that was always the kind of question mark around him. You know, headed into this year, it was like, you know, what's the future look like for Arraez? Can it be a transition to first base or DH or whatever it might be? Because Xavier Edwards looks to be a more athletic defender and a similar, you know, profile. And I think that's what we've seen with Xavier Edwards. He's been, you know, really encouraging. There's been some highlight plays at shortstop, I would say, but I think his natural home will remain at second base. What about your take on Xavier Edwards?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in the numbers that he's putting up.
Mm.
The numbers, they're quite nice, actually. He'll take a walk, strikeouts are low. That's always going to help with a high average.
Yeah.
The BABIP's a little bit high, but then, of course, he's hitting nearly, you know, mid 300s. So it's going to be high to achieve that. But, yeah, I mean, guys that hit to that level of average just don't turn around every day. You know, it is a case of if he can hit above 300, even if it's empty, with a not quite average defense, it's okay. This certainly does sound like Arraez, doesn't it? Yeah. Look, we know how the league value a empty high batting average with the way that Arraez was dealt for, and potentially going to be non-tendered this year. But that's because it's a high number.
It is.
If Arraez was on a minor league deal in the same way that, you know, Edwards is, then that carries a significantly higher value than a guy earning, you know, 12, 15, 20 million or whatever it is for his next year's number. So, this is, again, another perfect bat for the Marlins for a rebuild. A guy that's going to give you competitive at-bats. He's going to hit close to, if not at 300. These are players that you can not build around, but you can put out a lineup that isn't going to embarrass you too much every night.
Yeah. As we were talking and we were thinking about like the current roster construction, we're going to hit the final ad because I want to talk about the Arraez trade. Actually, the guys that came back very shortly and just get a sense of how those guys are doing. But one final note here, I had to actually go and look up the Marlins active roster offensively because I was struggling to piece together in my mind. Right, okay, Otto Lopez is out there in left field, right, what's happening? Like, I'm missing someone. I couldn't think who was on the roster. And the one guy I couldn't remember was Jonah Bride. I completely forgot he was on the roster. He's barely played at all, like pretty much a true bench bat at this point. As you were talking about, like, Victor Mesa Jr. has to be close at this point. And the reality is, you know, if they're going to be playing Jazz at second base, then Victor Mesa Jr. should already be back up or should be up for the first ever time, in my opinion. Just get him up there and, you know, let's just see what's cooking. So I think I'm with you on that, by the way. I think Victor Mesa Jr. will be very, very soon. Let's talk about our good friends over at FanDuel. And guys, I love sports, as you know, and I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all day, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner, Major League Baseball. All right, guys, final segment here with me, Peter Pratt, and UK GOAT, Sean Barrett. Great to have him back in the house after a month away. But Sean Barrett has testified now on the record. He is watching more baseball again. He's back in. Otto Lopez at shortstop. It's got him in. Yonny Chirinos going this evening. Got him back in. Sean, we talked about this Arraez trade. There was some eye-popping numbers last night. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos had an absolutely disgraceful day. Not just two guys in particular linked to Luis Arraez. The whole team. The only star and standout yesterday was Jacob Berry. 2 hits for Jacob Barrels. Is it real with Jacob Barrels? I don't know. We haven't got time to talk about it. But, Sean, what I wanted to call out is the fact that the Marlins, this Arraez trade, let's take suck, go out of it. Let's just focus on the guys that they actually wanted. Dylan Head acquired injured, out for the year. We'll see him next year. The 2 other guys were on fire when they were acquired. They started well with the Marlins the first couple of games, took a few walks, had a few hits. But yesterday, 0 for 9, 8 Ks. And frankly, that has been not quite as bad as that, but that's been pretty much the trajectory recently with them, and their production has dropped way off from what they were doing in this Padres system. I know it's early. I know it's too early to be making any kind of snap reactions, but to be honest, it feels pretty discouraging that the 3 guys that the Marlins acquired for Luis Arraez are either missed the whole year or have plummeted in their production, right?
Yeah, exactly. We'll ignore Head for now. Obviously, that's while he's away. So Marcy and I'm not even going to try and butcher the Martorella.
There you go. You nailed it.
I think
Sean Barrett's back.
I think I've had both of these on crackers before. So Marcy, to begin with, like his numbers haven't actually plummeted. They're exactly the same, which is slightly worrying.
He takes a walk. I think that was it, right? That was the projection. He takes a walk.
Yeah, and actually that is just the one number that has sort of crept down a little bit. He's when he was traded to the Marlins, he was said to be a 4th outfielder at best, as far as projectionable. The one thing that has carried over is his speed. So he stole 12 bags with San Diego, and he's stolen 20 already with Miami. In a full season of minor league ball, he could probably steal 60 bases. So that's what he's going to bring. He's going to be if he progresses how the Marlins hope he does, he's going to be a 4th outfielder with speed. The defense, I'm not too sure on, but I think he can play center, which would be ideal as a 4th outfielder. Martorella, who knows what's happened? The walks have just crumbled. The strikeouts have gone up a little bit, but from a guy that was hitting 290 to now 160, the WRC plus was 132. It's now 45. It's a little bit concerning. I would say small sample size, but which way round? Because the San Diego numbers were 100 plate appearance, give or take, and the Marlins are now double that. So was the 300 the small sample size that you can't trust, or is the low numbers that he's doing now the ones you can't trust? Because the poor Marlin numbers are technically the larger sample size and the ones that you should trust more, which is certainly concerning. It is too early. I think we see how they start next year. I think you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. The transition alone, like you've got an idea of where you are. You're settled with your home and everything like that. You've got to remember, baseball is an incredibly hard game. These are young kids, essentially. That transition might take some time. Who knows? So I think you give them an off season to bed in, get comfortable, get used to the organization, get used to the team, get used to the ballpark, and see how they do next year. I'm not gonna panic right now, because ultimately, what good does that do? I don't think 200 plate appearances into the Marlins' tenure after the trade is enough to say that the trade was dead. And ultimately, interestingly enough, the offseason will find out how the league value Arraez anyway. If he gets non-tendered, what do the Marlins really lose, other than a few months of getting to watch him, obviously?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's a great point, and that feeds into this whole situation with Luis Arraez. I think from Peter Bendix's perspective, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it take a little bit of pressure off in some ways if, one or two of these guys in a headline deal could kick on, be performing? Like Martorella in particular is obviously is not good. Dylan Head in different ways isn't good. And, Marcy's like kind of is what he is type of thing. But, I think from Peter Bendix's perspective, he'd love for at least one of these dudes to have like settled in and hit the ground running a little bit more than maybe they have. Because this was the start of it, right? Like this is his first major deal. It's a marquee deal. And we'll always look at this Arraez deal because of the type of player he is. Granted, to your point as well, Sean, like, well, if the Padres end up non-tendering because they want to spend $20 million on him next year, and that's too much, then again, the Marlins may not have spent that either. And so maybe it'll be, it helps to change the optics a touch, but you can't get away from the fact that Arraez is exceptional what he does. 2-time batting champ. I mean, heck, he may even win 3. I don't even know. But, it's, I'd love to see at least one of these guys just like hit the ground. And then I feel like it takes a bit of pressure off Bendix. Like there's so much pressure around this situation, negativity from some portion of the fan base where 23 was amazing and Bendix rocks in and 24, he's like, let's blow it up, which is what is actually happening. And this deadline is going to be wild. Sean, what's the one final question? Then we'll get out of here. We haven't got time to talk about Jazz being a freak or a burger surge, but one final one. We've got just over a week until the deadline itself. What's the one surprise name that you can see being moved here for the Marlins at this deadline? Or not being moved, either or. There's maybe guys talked about. What's the one that either you are surprised is moved or surprised it stays?
I would be honestly surprised. That's a really good question. There's not many people, is there, on the Major League roster that I would be surprised, to be brutally honest. I'll go back to who we spoke about earlier, Trevor Rogers. I think he's actually had a good couple of starts, last 10, 12 starts. He's actually looked not quite like he did. Like you said, the strikeouts aren't there. He was a 10.5 K per 9 guy that year. The following year, he was about just under a 9. At the moment, I think it's 7.5.
Yeah.
So he's just not missing as many bats. But
no,
I think the control and the fact that the pitching is starting to turn around now, and maybe other teams haven't seen that. But I would be surprised if they moved on from him immediately after he showed a little bit of promise.
Yeah. Good call. Good call on Trevor. There will be calls on Trevor, in my opinion. I mean, so many teams need pitching more so than last year, more so than I can remember. It feels, and a lot of teams still in it too. And so the Marlins have really got unlucky this year when their whole rotation is out, and would be a year to make some moves. It is the year to make moves, and so. It's a bit disappointing. Obviously, the whole Luzardo situation has really blown up in Peter Bendix's face with this one. Like, clearly they wanted to move him in the offseason. They didn't. Then they lose another year. Like, does it really ding him overly? I think it probably does, to be honest with you. I think it has, if he reflects on it, it was a shoulda, woulda, coulda, and should have moved Jesus Luzardo. Nevertheless, we're out of time. We're 38 minutes in, which means we're 8 minutes over. But it's always great having the UK GOAT, Sean Barrett, in the house. Appreciate you having you back on, Sean, for sure. Let's make sure we keep the phones ready for some emergency pods in the next few days. No doubt about it. Guys, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. They're looking for a series win against the surging Mets. Yonny Chirinos trying to do his thing, play spoiler. However, the Marlins are facing a lefty. Gut feel this is going to be a split series, but in tomorrow's episode, we'll recap that. Equally, recap any news that drops in the next 24 hours, and we'll see you then.